Hello there and welcome back to another edition of Not Your Average Globetrotter. I am Rafael Di Furia, back at it again, and this week we are going to be doing something a little bit different. As many of you know, I don't normally have guests on Not Your Average Globetrotter. Some of you may remember the episode that I did with Kathleen and Richard from Bordr.io. Of course, they've been a sponsor of Not Your Average Globetrotter. And of course, to be completely transparent, this episode also has been sponsored by Bordr.io. Of course, be sure to go to Bordr.io/NYAG for more info. And I also wanted to give a little bit more insight into why I wanted to have them come on, because there are a lot of people that I've spoken to that I feel as though their story kind of summarizes wanting to start a new life in a new country. They're maybe wanting to start a new business. They've done the nomad thing. They've done the expat thing, or they haven't done any of it, but are looking to move to Portugal and want to hear more about it, but then also hear from people who have done it in a successful way and have actually started a new life and a new business. So in this episode, you'll hear a bit about who they are, what they've done, where they've been, as well as a little bit about what they do and how they do it. But I think it's about time we get started, so roll that intro. Well, Richard, Kathleen, thank you so much for coming to visit. This is so exciting to have you guys here in Braga. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
So let's hear a little bit about you guys. Tell us a little bit about your past, because you have a really interesting past also as digital nomads before you even decided to come here to Portugal to make it your full-time home.
For sure. So I'm Kathleen.
And I'm Richard.
And we run Bordr. I guess the journey starts in 2018 when we left our then home, the San Francisco Bay Area, and started our digital nomad journey. So the idea was that we worked remotely at the time and we were running a web design business and we wanted to experience traveling and working. So we had set out initially planning for a year. Probably longer.
It doesn't hurt to plan. It's good to be prepared for anything.
I think I was mentally prepared for a year. I think she had other plans.
Yeah, but it was super fun. So we started out on our journey spending like a month in a new city. We went from Chiang Mai to Bali to Tokyo to Porto, Berlin. And then we got tired.
We got burnt out just from traveling around the world and that globetrotter.
And don't get me wrong, it was super fun. But there is also a lot of logistics and planning that comes with moving to a new city every month.
Definitely.
So then we really loved it though, and we decided that to make it more sustainable, we'd stay for longer in each new city. So we continued for our second year, and we did Taipei, Medellin, Colombia.
Wow.
Where did we go after? Back to Chiang Mai.
I think we already went back to Chiang Mai. Chiang Mai and Taipei were our kind of recurring home bases that we kept spending time in.
Mm-hmm. Those are two really good cities for digital nomads, very popular.
Yeah, we were talking earlier, you guys kind of mentioned that it almost felt like home after just a very short period of time. And
Totally.
So here in Portugal, do you feel like you've already found that it's feeling like home, or are you still kind of moving towards that?
Oh, that's a great question. I guess we're still working towards it. I think coming to Portugal, especially during COVID, it was a bit strange to move to a new country, because ordinarily we would, work at coffee shops, meet the coffee shop owners, also go to yoga studios, and then meet friends at yoga studios and coffee shops, and kind of both of those two parts of our life were shut down. So now things are, as they're opening up, we're kind of coming out a little bit more to.
It's almost like you're actually now finally moving to Portugal.
2 years later, it's like we were in Portugal when it was shut down, kind of oh, these kiosks look cool. I can imagine people having fun here, but now it's we can actually go out and grab a drink with friends, and it's it's actually as fun as or maybe more fun than we imagined as well.
Yeah, because we actually arrived here February 2020, so right
before COVID,
just right as it bam. Oh. No, but I can definitely relate. I mean, coming here and spending, since December of last year, 2021, it's been amazing to get to see this country and get to know people and to relearn about what this country has to offer, because there's just so much here. It's just from the north to the south. You've got the coasts, you've got the beaches, you've got the forests up in the north. For you, what was it that you really saw in the end, though, that made you decide that Portugal is where you wanted to have home base?
Well, I guess to continue the story, after doing 2 years of digital nomading, on coming up on our third year, we figured that we were basically wanting to have more of a home base, and we didn't quite know where that was going to be. We were actually pretty open at the time. We were like, it's funny, we were literally searching, where can Americans stay for more than 6 months out of the year? Because prior to that, we were just hopping around on tourist visas, but typically you can't really stay more than, the average is 3 months. It's a stretch if you get 6 months in some places. And that's how we ended up finding out about the D7. And it seemed like a great setup for us. It worked after doing some research, figuring out that it worked for our setup and our income. And we had visited Porto during our first year of travels, and we really liked it. And so we applied, and we were like, oh, let's give it a shot, see how it goes. Use it at, have Portugal as home base, maybe explore Europe, and then kind of take it from there. We were getting accustomed not planning too far ahead. And then COVID happened, so that's kind of what changed the trajectory of that. But after being here for 2.5 years, I
think after being here for 6 months, we were kind of like, this place is great. We could totally make this home base. So.
Yeah. Even if it was during COVID lockdown.
Yeah. Initially, it was just out of practicality. It's like, it's a relatively easy visa for us to apply to. It could give us access to Europe. We could spend, say, 6 months here or 6 months elsewhere. And now, having been here really full time for the past 2.5 years, I think it's been a great place to live, actually.
And we've gone around the country.
We were really fortunate to get stuck in such a wonderful place.
Oh, definitely. And we saw a lot of the country. We spent time in Lisbon, in Porto, in Lagos, along the Silver Coast. We kind of did our digital nomad thing within Portugal.
We just rented a car and just kind of kept going up and down, No,
that's great that you had that ability, because there's so many people that don't have the ability to do a pilot trip, and especially now with the visas and some restrictions potentially with getting here. Although things at this moment, at the time of the recording, there's not so many restrictions in place, so you don't have to worry about that. But even there are so many people, just when it comes to time crunch and just what they've got going on in their life, they don't do that. They just, all right, there's a place available, I'm going to rent it, let's do it, because of the requirements. So
totally.
But even with Lagos, I spent some time there and love that little city. It's been a long time, so it's probably changed a lot, but what a place to be. And all these different locations.
Yeah, and just generally, the people here are so warm and so kind, so welcoming, despite our broken Portuguese.
Well, we were talking about this earlier also, that if you're going to come to a country where you don't speak the language, Portugal is quite the place, because the
English level here is phenomenal. Yeah, it's I think it's really accessible for English speakers to come here. But, secondly, when you do try to speak Portuguese with locals, it's they're more than willing to accommodate and help you, learn. So it's been a really fun experience for us, because we don't feel limited, but then we also don't feel judged when we practice Portuguese. So then it's a great place for us to learn a new language.
Oh, that's great. And then so when it comes to making Portugal the home base, this is something that, of course, a lot of people are wanting to do, and this is something that you guys really specialize in. So what was it, before we get into necessarily the services that you offer and how you do it, what was it that brought Bordr into existence? What was the what was the push for that?
Yeah. So basically, as we were going through the D7 process ourselves, you have to pull together a bunch of different requirements. Now you had to get a NIF number, which is a Portuguese tax ID number, a bank account. You need to deposit money into the bank account. So we just kind of found that a lot of the process was, from our perspective, unnecessarily hard, especially given that anyone who's trying to move to Portugal for any reason needs a lot of these things. So we started out with the NIF, and we identified okay, there's this thing called fiscal representation. You need someone in Portugal to be your fiscal representative to request a NIF. And at the time, it was really hard to find that kind of person. What is fiscal representation? Right. How much should it cost? Who do I reach out to? Who's legitimate? Who's not? I'm sending
it's such a foreign concept information from an American perspective.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. So we decided, hey, after we figured it out for ourselves, maybe we can put together a service that the service that we wish we had, and that was kind of the inspiration. Is through our own pain point of going through the process. It's we think we could do this better.
No, I mean, it's so great because like the kind of how you guys started your company was kind of how I started this YouTube channel, is like what I wish I had known, what I wish I could have had the help and information with ahead of time. So it's really refreshing and great to see this, heartwarming even, I would say, to be able to see that you guys have come at it from a point of passion, and that it's really something that you feel that you can make a difference with, where there's so many people out there. It's just like, yeah, all right, let's roll them through the grinder.
Yeah, totally.
And it's cool because actually Bordr has enabled us to connect with other people who are going through the same process and have the same struggles.
And even within the network that you have, I mean, you were telling me also, like we were speaking off camera earlier, that you've ended up meeting with your clients and connecting with them in person because of this.
Totally.
It's super cool when people come by, or like maybe some people are coming through Portugal, passing by Lisbon, doing their scouting trip where people have finally made the move. It's been really great.
But getting into a little bit more about Bordr and what you guys actually do. So the services that you offer, how is it that you actually help people? In what areas? You kind of talked about it a little bit, but let's maybe dive into it a little bit deeper.
Okay, so we have two core services. We help with the NIF and the bank account. And so I guess just to give a rough overview of how those two services work, in order to get the tax ID, you basically need to provide a couple documents. So your passport, proof of address, you would send that to us. Our team would look over the documents, make sure that everything passes the requirements, looks good. We pass that to the lawyer. The lawyer requests the NIF on your behalf, and then you pretty much get your NIF document. That one's super straightforward. It takes less than a week on average. Everything can be done online.
That's fantastic. And then about the bank account.
And then for the bank account, that's a little bit bigger of a process. We try to keep things simple at least, but basically it also starts with documents. So passport, proof of address, you also need proof of employment, and then you actually need the NIF. So then same thing, you send that through to us, we look everything through, and then the bank will generate bank account documents for you to sign. You sign those documents, and then you actually need to print those and mail those to Portugal, like the originals, and that gets sent to the lawyer, which then gets passed to the bank. And then once the bank receives your account opening documents, then they're able to open the account, give you online access, then you're good to go. You fund the account and then get going.
That's awesome. And so I guess maybe actually just to clarify one point, you mentioned about proof of address. Just maybe so there's no confusion, because for the D7, it's necessary to have an address in Portugal. And when you're saying proof of address, are you talking about address in Portugal or address in the country of origin?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So proof of address for the NIF and bank account are actually proof of address in your country of origin.
Okay.
So it does not need to be a Portuguese address. But yes, one of the requirements of the D7 is to have a lease in Portugal. So that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
Right. No.
What a lot of people do, because to sign leases, you typically need a NIF to sign the lease. They'll go ahead and get the NIF and bank account process started. By the time they have a NIF, they can already, start the whole lease process. But oftentimes people will get those things done first in the process, and then when they're ready to sign a lease, they can use their NIF. And then if they want to make the initial deposit from their Portuguese bank account, they can also do that as well.
Ah, that's fantastic to be able to have that access. So
Totally.
I'm assuming this means that then these clients of yours do have access to online banking.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And in English?
In English. Yes.
That's even better.
Yes.
There are some countries I've been in where online banking in English is definitely not a possibility. So very refreshing to hear that the companies or the banks rather that you work with do have that possibility. So going through that, even part of the banking process, and even with D7, just to kind of roughly go over that, even though it's not necessarily part of this service, how is it that the people actually will go into their account and start filling it, because they'll have to show that they actually have something in there? How do you guys facilitate that, and how is that kept secure as well?
So in terms of getting online access, once the account is open, then you'll be sent like a verification code, basically to get your online access. And so once you have access to the bank's website or app, then you can make the online transfers. So, transfer from your foreign bank account to your Portuguese bank account, and then you can manage your things online, like if you need to make payments or you need to download your statement for your visa application.
The other thing to mention is that a lot of banks in Portugal have two types of accounts. One does not come with an account manager, and another one does come with a dedicated account manager. So the accounts that we open for our clients come with the dedicated account manager. So there's a slightly higher monthly fee, but what we found to be helpful for our customers is that, in the case that they have any issues with, say, the app, or if any questions at all, they have a dedicated person that they can email on the bank's end who can sort things out for them. And this gives them kind of like a more hands-on, like high-touch kind of service rather than not having that person to begin with.
Yeah, we found that that's been helpful because, like, especially when you're coming, like, if you're used to, for example, the banking system in the U.S. and moving to Europe, like, some things are different. Like here you have like the IBAN number versus in the States, like you have the routing number and the account number. So sometimes that can be confusing. So it's nice to have just like a direct line that you can like call or email in case you need help with anything.
Well, even then, the process of getting the bank account, it's an application process too. That can take a little bit of time, rather than just walking in and out of the bank and I've got another bank account, big deal, woo.
totally yeah. So I think it's pretty surprising to people that for us our clients, it typically takes like 3 to 4 weeks to open a bank account in Portugal, so better to get that started earlier than later.
You don't want to be doing these things last minute.
It's really hard to do last minute.
That would be a nightmare to have to think about. Like, I mean, even I know with my situation, what I went through, like getting just the NIF. You guys have told you about that and the nightmare that turned into. So I'm not even going to go into that on here. But it's great that there is that service available that you can even get that done pretty quickly. So you don't have to have that worry. And then say you find a place that you really like on like Idealista, for example. Like, get ready to jump on that, make that happen. That's huge, especially with the market right now, with how fast things are moving.
Yeah, days can matter right now for closing a rental agreement.
It's so competitive these days.
It's really competitive right now.
Even there was one apartment here in Braga that I lost literally by hours because I had slept on it, and I was just maybe I want it, I don't know, and then sent a message to the real estate agent. They just signed it a few hours ago, the contract. So frustrating. But then I guess also getting into kind of how things are handled, because you're going to be dealing with very sensitive documents. What is it that you do? What documents do you need generally? I mean, you kind of went through that, but how is it that you go through that to make sure that these documents are kept safe?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we take the security of the documents that we receive very, very seriously. Obviously, people are submitting like their proof of address, sometimes their passport, their proof of employment. A lot of like private sensitive information. So we make sure all of the documents that we receive are encrypted both in transit, also at rest. So things are secure. We also make sure that only the people who need to be able to access the documents get access. So on our team, it's our team members who are going to be validating the documents, making sure that everything looks correct. The image quality of the uploads are sharp and clear. That all the words are legible. That the documents are not expired. So basically, doing a pre-validation before they even get to say the lawyer or the bank. To just speed up the process. And then when we share those documents with the bank or the lawyer, specifically for the purpose of working on this client's account. So that's how we handle the files when we're in progress handling an account. But after the order, we delete all of the files that we have on record. So basically, we figure the safest way to be is not to have the files to begin with.
Of course.
So that's how we take care of the security side of things.
That's great to hear too. I mean, there's so many companies out there that just really don't have that respect for how sensitive these things can be. But also along this line of security, because you are helping individuals to open up their bank accounts, I'm sure it's safe to assume that you have no direct access to that bank account, that you can't run it for them. And
correct.
So, okay.
Correct. Yeah. So basically for our clients, when we using our bank account process, Bordr's not the bank, we're not the lawyer, we're an intermediary, so we kind of facilitate the process. And basically for our clients, they are the ones who are actually opening the accounts under their own name, and Bordr doesn't have any access to their account. Like, we can't withdraw any money or anything. So in that regard, people can feel safe that they are the only owners of the account and they have complete control.
And just kind of, without getting into the politics side of things, of course,
sure.
Are there any restrictions on nationalities that you're able to work with, or that you do or don't work with without, again, going into everything that's going on right now in the world?
Yeah, so for the NIF service, we cater to all nationalities. There are no restrictions there. And then for the bank account, in light of recent events, we aren't able to open accounts for citizens of Russia and Belarus. And that's based on bank policy.
So it's not actual border, it's just the banks that are at this moment that are making those restrictions. So theoretically, at some point in the future, if those restrictions are lifted, it wouldn't be an issue for you to help them with that.
Yep.
Even though you can still help with them.
Yeah. Totally. And I think another point that we might want to discuss is age restrictions, if there are any.
Yeah. So same. So with the NIF, there are no age restrictions as well. We do have we help minors get NIFs because a minor might need a NIF for school enrollment, health insurance, and then for the bank account, of course, I don't think you want your newborn, or I don't think the newborn's capable.
Oh, your cute little stock trader.
So we have like of legal age, like 18 and above for the bank accounts.
No, so then even say, for example, somebody wants to get a mortgage set up here in Portugal. Is that something that can be done through the bank? Are there any restrictions that they need to keep in mind?
That's a good question. So basically with mortgages in Portugal, so firstly, foreigners can get mortgages in Portugal, which is great. And basically the amount of mortgage that a person can get can depend on whether or not they're a resident as well. And typically what people will do is there are a couple ways to go about it. One way is to talk to the bank directly, and each bank that offers mortgage services can provide a proposal to you. Another way to do it is to work with a mortgage broker, which is a service that we're actually piloting. But essentially, when you work with a mortgage broker, that mortgage broker will request proposals for mortgages from multiple banks. So then you can compare all the different offers available to you and select the best mortgage for yourself.
Oh, that's awesome. So you mentioned actually just there very quickly, which I think might be worth going into a little bit, that you're piloting this program. Yeah. Are there any other programs or services that you're looking at that you're trying to build and help grow? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, a lot of our customers are coming here and moving to Portugal on primarily the D7 visa, honestly. And, after the NIF and bank accounts, that's like kind of like pre-arrival. It's for them to help them apply for the visa and get to Portugal. And what we're now seeing with people having arrived, it's like they have a bunch of other needs and things that we could help with. So real estate, taxes, NHR status, getting health insurance, perhaps. We set up a new page on our website called Bordr Labs, which is bordr.io/labs. And essentially, there's where people can sign up to join the wait list for all of these new services that we're going to be piloting.
And so also when you're going through this, of course, people are probably going to want to know what's going on, how it's happening, when it's happening.
Sure.
It can be a little bit of anxiety that comes along with this process because you don't know it's happening on the other side of the world. You've just sent all your documents. You've got an amount of money in a bank account that maybe you've never been to before. How can people get in contact with you, or can they get in contact with you? And what kind of updates do they get during the process?
Sure.
Oh, for sure. So in terms of updates, we're really good about updating our customers throughout the process, because we totally understand that anxiety of you're trying, especially when you're preparing a visa application, right. And if you're in a time crunch and you're coordinating all the things, you want to know where am I? So we basically send email notifications to our customers every step of the way. So, we've received your documents. Hey, we need a new document because of this reason. Okay, the lawyer has sent the request for your NIF. We've received your NIF. We're requesting your password, so on and so forth. So that's how we keep people up to date in terms of just making sure you know where you are. And then in terms of if you have any questions, on our website we have a contact form, and we have a great customer support team who's always there to help with any specific questions to your account or your order.
What about the team at Bordr? How many people are actually there working with you guys?
Yeah, we've got about 12 people working with us right now. And I mean, it does take a lot of work to offer the level of customer service that we want to offer and provide the turnaround times that our clients expect. So 12 people so far, and we're still growing.
That's fantastic. I mean, even just the amount of people that you're talking about there, that's already a small army's worth of people when we're talking about legal documents that can really give the attention that individuals need.
Totally.
Coming to Portugal, or really would be any country, but you're here for now. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Let's see.
Bordr Global coming to you.
But yeah, the team is excellent, and it definitely takes a team to make sure that, you know, all requests and all emails get answered, which is like one of the highest priorities.
Yeah. Fortunately, these days we get to sleep a little bit more because we have the extra hands.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, gosh. Just when you're building a business, and especially because you guys have only been around, you said a year and a half, there's a lot of things that you have to get under the system, and you have to take care of this and that and the services.
Oh, totally.
Doing everything on top. So
it's a lot.
Just to hear also that you guys do have a team with you. It's
totally
good to know that you aren't being just totally bogged down by everything, and you can give your clientele the attention that they need. But I think actually this could be a great place to round things off. So of course I wanted to say thank you so much again for coming to visit Braga. We've been having such a fun day. Like, we were out in Porto earlier, so that video should come out before this one. But wow, yeah, now we still have another francesinha that we're supposed to take care of.
Well, thanks so much for having us.
This was awesome.
I think my stomach's actually ready for
I know.
I'm ready for round 2. Yes.
It's kind of crazy to think, especially with how big lunch was.
I never thought I'd have 2 francesinhas in one day, but I think today I could do it.
Today's the day.
Let's do it. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Stay safe and healthy out there, and I'll see you all next time. Later.